I found something really unique about human beings, and that is that we as human beings ask for advice at the strangest of times. Have you noticed that? I can't tell you how many people have come to me and they've said, should I send this text? But they've already written the text, read it 6 times, they've asked 2 people their own opinion, and their finger is hovering over send right before they're about to do this. Or they'll come to me and say, do you think I should buy this? But it's already purchased and on the way. Or people will come, I've had people come to me and they say, do you think we should get married? Well, they're already living together and have 2 kids, one's in high school about to graduate. And it's like, I don't know, what do you want to do? I've started asking people, have you already made this decision? Because here's what normally happens is I give them my opinion, they don't take it, and then they get mad at me when things fall apart. And so we're not interested at times in someone else's opinion. We're just interested in getting someone to put a rubber stamp on the opinion we've already made. I can't tell you how many times I've come to Marla with a completely foolproof plan. Foolproof is the key word there. And I've said, hey, could I get your advice on this? And when she gives me her advice, I say, no. Let me tell you why your advice is wrong. Because I've already thought this out. And half the time she says, you do what you're going to do, Nathan. See, because sometimes we don't ask for advice because we're uncertain, but sometimes we ask for advice. We don't ask for advice because we want someone to not bless the decision that we've already made in life. And so I wonder how often we do that with one another, but more importantly, I wonder how often we do that with God, where we come to him and we say, God, would you please lead me? But what we're actually saying is, would you please agree with me? Would you please agree with the decisions that I've already made, the thoughts that I've already had, the plans that I've already put into motion? Would you bless the things that I've already done? So today we're going to look at a very short proverb about what makes a fool, and I think it's something that all of us struggle with. And in Proverbs 12:15, it says this, the way of the fool seems right to them, but the wise listen to advice. The way of the fools seem right to them, but the wise listen to advice. Now, notice what Solomon doesn't say. He doesn't say that the fool is always wrong. See, that is oftentimes the traditional view that we have of the fool, that the fool is the one who just has stupid ideas and they're bumbling over themselves. They don't really have an idea. See, he says the fool thinks his own inclinations are always right. That the way I see it is the way it is, that I don't actually need anyone else to interrupt this because I already actually know what's there. See, the question in this passage that's asking us, it's asking us, who gets to shape your decisions other than you? Who do you get to invite in to make the decisions that you're making in life? Not after they're made, but before they're made. And who do you invite in to shape your world around you? Now you're going to hear over the next few weeks as we continue this series on the fool, this phrase, the way of the fool, the way of the fool. You'll hear it often. And the way is really your direction. It's your habits. It's your decision making. It's what informs your thinking. Now here's the great thing. You can just look at the results of your life right now, and they will inform you of your way, which is the beautiful and annoying thing about that, isn't it? Because you can just look at how you spent your money, and that will inform you about your way. No one else you can blame on that. That's just the way it is, right? You can look at how you spent your time, and that will inform you of your way. You can look at your mental health, your emotional health, and that will inform you of your way. You can look at even your physical health, and that will inform you of your way. You can look at your own spirituality, and that will inform you of your way. All of these are largely the results of your way. Now, here's the surprising part about the way of the fool. The way of the fool is not just randomly wandering through life. In fact, the fool has a very well thought out plan. And in fact, the fool has all kinds of reasons as to why they're doing what they're doing. They have logic as to why they're doing what they're doing. And they're quite confident in why they're doing what they're doing. In fact, they are about to 10x their life. It just never occurs to the fool that maybe I should invite someone else to help me think this through. Maybe I don't know everything in the process. See, just think about all the major life decisions that you've made about your marriage, about your finances, about your church, about your parenting, about your moving, about buying homes, about friendships. Have you noticed that almost all of those, none of them come with clear-cut advice? None of them come with like, hey, here's the absolute right way to go. Here's the thing that you ought to do, that you should do, that you need to do. None of them come with that. We did something really dumb this weekend. And I collect these Disney trading cards called Lorcana. And they had this drop in downtown Disney on Friday, a new drop for the set. And I thought, let's go to the drop. And so we woke up at 3:15 in the morning with our children, and we drove down to Anaheim. Now, I've done this before, and there's usually about 1,000 people that show up total for these events. We get in line, and 15,000 people have shown up for this event. It overwhelmed the system. People were like blown out in the middle of it. And we get in line, and we're in line, and we're waiting, and we're waiting, and we're waiting. And we find ourselves now 6 hours into the waiting process. And there's probably like 3 hours of line still ahead of us. And I'm in line going, what do we do? Do we wait for 3 hours and hope to God that there is still product available? Or do we go home? And I could tell Marla could feel the tension on me. I was just waiting. I'm like, there's no clear-cut answer here. And I'm asking around, I'm asking security, like, do you think we should wait? I don't know, that's up to you, man. How long do you think it's gonna be? I think it's gonna be a couple hours. Should I leave? I don't know, that's up to you, man. How much do you want these stupid pieces of cardboard, right? And in that moment, I was just like, there's no clear-cut answer right now. We ended up leaving, and guess what? They had plenty of product all day. And so we wasted 6 hours of our life, or we got 3 hours back, depending on how you look at it. But in life, there are no clear-cut answers, but how often do we treat the decisions that we make as if our judgment alone was enough to make them? As if we were just needing to come up with our own smarts, with our own reasons, with our own ideas to have this happen, as if confidence was the same thing as wisdom, and they're not. We can be confident in all kinds of things, and they are not wise. How often do we just plow through in our decision-making process without thinking, man, maybe I'm missing something here. Maybe there's something that someone else can see that I can't see in the process. So why is it? Why is it that we resist seeking counsel? Why is it that we don't pause and say, who can I ask about this here in this moment? See, I think for some of us, we confuse independence with maturity. And our culture celebrates the self-made individual. And so we live on the mantra of just figure it out yourself. Just trust your gut. Just go with your heart. No one's gonna tell me what to do. You are enough. And this is what we're constantly fed in this. So asking for support or gaining counsel or getting wisdom from someone else before we make a decision often looks like weakness rather than wisdom. But scriptures paint this completely different picture of what this looks like. See, maturity isn't needing no one. Maturity is knowing who I can trust to give me the counsel I need to make wise decisions in my life. Have you noticed that there is nothing more annoying than a kid who is trying to do something that is way above their skill level, and when you go to help them, they say, no, I can do it myself. Have you ever experienced that before? It is just so annoying, right? It's the kid with the jar that clearly is not going to be able to get that lid off, and you're like, hey, let me just help you real fast. I can do it myself, right? Well, it's when they're trying to, get the TV working, or they're trying to get the game console on, and I can do it myself, right? And it's the tasks that are clearly above them when we know, if you just hand it over to me, I could help you. If you would just let me support you in this. If you would just take my wisdom, you would be able to move forward. There's nothing more annoying than watching a kid sit there and struggle and say, fine, have it your way, do it yourself. And they sit there and struggle. Now, we look at kids and think that's so annoying, but let's be honest, we don't grow out of that phase, do we? We just sit there in the, I can do it myself. I don't need your advice. I don't need your help. I'm going to prove to you how strong I am and how competent I am by doing it myself. See, maturity actually says, who can help me? Who can I invite into this struggle? Who can I get wisdom from? Who can I seek advice from? Who can I seek counsel from? Who can I ask to help think this through with me, to see a bigger perspective than what I'm seeing right now? See, because also notice, when someone comes to you for wisdom, when someone comes to you, hey, could you help me? Could I get some advice from you? Could you support me in thinking this through? Isn't that an honor? Right? Isn't it nice when someone says, hey, I'm struggling with this, and your name came up, and I thought about you, and I just really wanted to reach out to get some support. Man, that's one of those like, oh, beautiful moments. Now we're bonded. Now notice if when it's your turn to reach out for help, or it's your turn to reach out for advice, or it's your turn to reach out for counsel, and you say, I don't want to be a bother. You know, I don't want to put anyone out. I don't want to look weak. I'll just take care of it myself. Now, let's just call that what that is. That is not being thoughtful. That is called superiority. Where people are more than welcome to come to you for their advice and wisdom. But you don't need it from anyone else, of course, because that's beneath you in life. Now, some of us seek counsel don't seek counsel because we're just stuck on being independent and we don't really want to actually involve anyone else in our lives. We love to stay isolated from one another. But let's just be honest. Some of us don't seek counsel because we just don't want to slow down. Because how have you noticed that asking for help, asking for advice, asking for wisdom, that it slows down the train? And I hate this more than anything else. I mean, my team can tell you, when I get on the rails, I am moving a mile a minute. And have you ever got really excited about something and you're like ready to go and you're like, let's make the purchase, let's do the thing, let's enact the thing, let's go put it into play. And then someone tries to slow you down. Like, I don't know if that's a good idea. I don't know if we should do that. That might fail. Have you thought that through? There's nothing more annoying than that, isn't it? Because we don't like being slowed down in the middle of that. See, the wise, in the middle of their movement forward, actually pause. They stop. And they say to themselves, who do I need to invite into this process, even if it means slowing me down? See, some of the most powerful spiritual action that you can take is shelving something for a week. And saying, hey, you know what, I'm going to put a pause on this. And I am going to move forward. See, slowness doesn't make you ineffective. It just makes you accurate in your movement and your decision making. So for those of you who move fast and you like the momentum, oftentimes we don't pause because we don't want to move slower in the process. But I think there's another reason why we don't seek counsel. See, still some of us, we aren't interested in wisdom, so we shop for agreement from people. You know what I'm talking about, don't you? See, we avoid wise people because we already know what they're going to say. We know they're already going to say this is a dumb decision. We already know they're going to say this is going to mess up your life and everyone else around you. We know it already. And so we go to the other friend, right? We go to the other friend. Or we go to Google and we selectively find the websites that will agree with our opinion. We just filter out everything else that says other, or we validate the YouTube video that validates our opinion about it, right? A few months ago, I started growing orchids. I think I've told you about that a few times. And I bought these shelves that go on the wall. Orchids need bright, indirect light, so they can only grow in certain places in the house. So I brought these shelves, and I put them on one side of my house. And then once I got them up and put the orchid there, I thought to myself, I don't know if that's bright enough or indirect enough for an orchid to grow. So I took a picture of it, and I put it in ChatGPT, and I said, is there enough light here to grow an orchid? And it said, I don't think so. And so I went back to chat and I said, yeah, but let me take another picture of it for you. And it's 3 o'clock, so it'll probably be brighter at noon. Will it work at noon? And it comes back, yeah, maybe. It's probably not the best place for it. And I respond back, so it'll work, right? See, even with technology, I found myself going, let's find the answer that I actually want in this moment rather than the answer that's going to bring me into wisdom. And lo and behold, the orchid that was on the wall died last night because it was there. Now, the scriptures actually give us this really crazy picture of this. There's this king by the name of Rehoboam. And the workers of Israel come to him, and they're basically like, we are being overworked. It is tiring. We are exhausted. We are dying. You have got to lower the workload that is on us. And this is what happens in 1 Kings chapter 12, starting in verse 5. It says this, Rehoboam answered, go away for 3 days and then come back to me. So the people went away. And the king Rehoboam consulted the elders who had served his father Solomon during his lifetime. Now, pause. Solomon, the most wise person on the planet. These are the elders that served him. So we're talking about the wisest of the wise available to King Rehoboam in this moment. And he goes to them and he says, how would you advise me to answer these people, he asked. They replied, if today you will be a servant to these people and serve them and give them a favorable answer, they will always be your servants. But Rehoboam rejected the advice the elders gave him and consulted the young men who had grown up with him and were serving him. And he asked them, what's your advice? How should we answer these people who say to me, lighten the yoke your father put on us? The young men who had grown up with him replied, these people have said to you, your father put a heavy yoke on us, but make your yoke lighter. Now tell them, my little finger is thicker than my father's waist. My father laid on you a heavy yoke. I will make it even heavier. My father scoured you with whips. I will scour you with scorpions. Now, Rehoboam did not like the wisdom of the elders of the wisest man who ever lived on the planet. So he found the young guys who are essentially yes men, who we could go to and say, hey, just tell me what I want to hear so that I can do what I want. Now, the result of this is that the kingdom of Israel splits forever. And this nation that was designed to be God's greatest gift to the world is now split and divided and is at odds with one another for the rest, essentially, of their history. See, the problem that Rehoboam had, which most of us have, is not the lack of advice. It was the selective listening. It was hearing what he wanted to hear rather than hearing what he needed to hear. See, he was not looking for wisdom. He was looking for permission to do what he was already going to do. And I wonder for how many of us, we just go to the right people and we avoid those who are going to give the hard answer, the difficult answer. Now, I think most of us, those are enough reasons. But let's just be honest. I think most of us fail to ask for wisdom because our own pride whispers to us, no one understands this problem like me. No one gets it. I know how to handle my feelings, and I know how to handle my money, and I know how to handle my time and my schedule and my attitude and my perspective. I just need a little more time to figure this out, and I'm going to take care of it. If I ask for counsel, if I ask for help, I'm going to look dumb, I'm going to look incompetent, I'm going to look like I don't know what I'm doing. Every fool thinks their situation is unique to them. Every fool says, no, I got this. No one else can help me with this. No one understands. No one gets it. No one sees it the way I see it, which is exactly why this proverb says the fool trusts their own judgment. See, a fool essentially surrounds themselves with mirrors. Mirrors just reflect back what's already there, but the wise actually surround themselves with windows that gives themselves larger perspective to the world around them beyond what they can see themselves and conjure themselves. It creates a bigger field of sight beyond their limited perspective. I love Proverbs 15:22. It says this, plans fail for lack of counsel, but with many advisors they succeed. A few years ago, I had someone come to me who was frustrated with humanity. They ended up leaving. And before they left, they said, I have a problem with our humanity groups. I said, all right, tell me the problem with our humanity groups. If you've been to our humanity groups, you know there's a time where people have an opportunity to share what they're struggling with or their needs or where they need encouragement or comfort in their life. And then we pause to actually hear from God on behalf of that person. If you have never experienced it, this week, find a group to experience it. There's nothing like it. And this person said, you know, if God wanted to say something to me, he would just say it directly to me. I shouldn't have to go through a middleman. I don't need a priest to come and tell me what God's going to say to me. And I said, oh, you got it all wrong. God does actually speak directly to you. He just speaks directly to you through other people. See, you're not actually resisting people, you're actually resisting God when you're unwilling to go through the chosen messengers that he has provided for us, which is others. So what does seeking wise counsel actually look like? How do we actually implement this in our life? See, the wise don't ask everyone. The wise are intentional about the voices they build into their lives that support them in making these decisions. Now, I never give you ever like 4 points on anything, so mark this calendar down, all right? So if you're gonna find counsel in your life, what I'm gonna invite you to at the end of this talk, to think through an area in your life where you are going to actively invite someone to give you wisdom or counsel or advice this week on an area that you could use some support in. The first thing, ask people who love Jesus more than they love being right. Ask people who are like, actually, I love the wisdom of the scriptures, and I love what Jesus has said, and I love the wisdom that he has given you more than I love being right about your situation. So find people who are not just merely successful, but are spiritually mature and are willing to give you even the answers that are hard to give you. And like this, the second thing is this: find people who love you enough to disappoint you. Find people who will actually give you the answer that when they put that answer out of their mouth, they know you're gonna have that look on your face. That, really? That look, right? Find people who will give you the hard answers, the answers that are difficult, that they are not impressed or afraid of you. And so they're willing to say the difficult things to move you into the life that you are called to live. Now, here's the third thing. Find people that actually know what they're doing in that area. If you're gonna get advice on your marriage, you might wanna go to someone who has a healthy marriage. If you're gonna get advice on your finances, you might find someone who actually is doing well in their finances and have figured out that game. If you have a question about parenting, find someone who you're like, man, I want to emulate their parenting. Find someone who is actually an expert on what they're doing and ask them a million questions. And this last one connects to this one as well. Find someone who asks better questions than you do. See, because I think sometimes we think that the wise just have all the right answers. That the wise person knows, here's the wisdom about finances or health or spirituality or mental health or how to be a good parent or how to get along with people. And that is actually not the case. The wise actually know better questions to ask than you are aware of in that moment. So find people who invite you into questions that you might not even want to ask or haven't even thought about asking. See, the wise don't just outsource decisions to someone else. They invite perspective into their life. They invite people to speak into a larger view of the world around them than they currently have. Now, here's the beautiful thing, that Jesus himself did this. Jesus, who is God in the flesh, oftentimes would pause and say, I need to go ask my Father. I only do what my Father tells me to do. He had friends around him, Peter, James, John, who he asked to be with him in some of his most hard moments, in some of his darkest moments, to stay with him, to be with him, to support him through those moments. I figure if Jesus needs to do this, we certainly need to. And this is the reality that he invites us into. See, our culture says maturity is becoming less dependent on others, but the kingdom of God actually says we actually become more interdependent on one another for the wisdom that I don't have access to alone. But the beautiful thing is that together we actually have access to what God is doing. See, the beautiful thing is that this proverb isn't condemning confidence. You can be the most confident person on the planet and still say, I'm gonna go seek counsel. I'm gonna go seek wisdom. I'm gonna go ask, what am I not seeing? What have I not thought through? What have I not engaged? So before your next big decision, before you get there, don't just ask, what do I want? The first question should be, who do I need to go ask? Who do I get to go get counsel from? Who do I get to go say, hey, what do you see that I don't see in this moment? So don't just pray for wisdom. Build a community around you that can actually support you in having that happen. I want you just to close your eyes for a moment. And I'd like for you to think through an area in your life where you're struggling with a decision. It could be big. It could be a big future decision. It could be small. Maybe it's something ongoing like your finances or your career. Maybe it's your health. Maybe you're struggling as a parent in the season that you find yourself in. Whatever that area is, I want you just right now to anchor into that area. Maybe it's your own mental health, and you've just noticed that, man, I am stressed, I am not doing well, I'm constantly anxious. Maybe it's your spiritual journey, and you feel disconnected from Jesus. I want you just to invite the Holy Spirit right now into that space, just in your own mind, your own heart. Just invite God's voice into that space. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to ask you just to ask the Spirit of God right now, who do you want me to get counsel from? And I want you just to think of a name. Just allow him to bring a name up to you. It could be a coworker, someone here in your community, someone in your humanity group, someone who loves Jesus more than being right, someone who is not afraid to give you the hard answers, someone who may be an expert in that field or is at least 2 steps ahead of you in that arena, and someone who can ask better questions than you do. I want you just to get that name in your head right now. And would you just commit with Jesus to getting counsel this week? Now, notice if there's any resistance. Notice if there's like, well, they're going to be busy. I don't want to be a burden. I don't want to look weak. That's just all the other voices talking. The scriptures tell us clearly that this is what we are called to do. The way of a fool seems right to them, but the wise listen to advice. So would you step out of a place of foolishness this week and allow yourself to enter into wisdom by seeking counsel? So Jesus, we thank you that you have given us a community of people who are committed to speaking into those areas where we don't have it all together. I thank you for the humility that allows us to admit, I don't know everything. I see just a fraction of reality out there, so I need people. Would you give us the courage this week to go seek counsel, to ask for help, to say, hey, what am I not seeing? What am I missing? What part of this is blinded to me so that I can own my life and I can fully step into it? Jesus, I thank you that you modeled this for us, that you went to the Father, that you went to your followers, to James, Peter, John, to Mary, to Martha, then that you asked for support in your hardest moments. So give us the courage to follow you, that we might step out of the foolishness of doing this on our own and step into the wisdom of seeking counsel. We are so grateful. We thank you in Jesus' name. Amen and amen.